Good afternoon, and welcome to historic Bristol Borough. My name is State Representative John Galloway. I am the state representative of this district, and I have to apologize ahead of time. You're going to hear words like historic and devastating several times today. And let's face it, those words are overused, misused. But if you're ever going to use those types of words, today would be the perfect time to do it. Now, I do have one request. We're going to have two separate events. This event is going to talk about the relief plan for the hospitality industry and the governor and the legislative response to that. And then there's going to be a separate event. And if we could keep those two things separate, I'd appreciate it. So the governor's been very gracious in his time in saying that, you know, he'd like to tour some of the areas that have been affected. And let's face it, what happened last Monday was something, again, you know, that we'd never seen before. You know, to get 10 inches of rain over a 6-7 hour period in a swath of area that's probably one of the most populated in the entire Commonwealth outside of Philadelphia and Pittsburgh. You know, it may not have been the grand event over hundreds or thousands of miles, but in that area, extremely populated area, that storm cut a swath. You know, from Bristol down to Croydon and into Bensalem and even up into northeast Philly. That's something we'd never even seen before and never even close. But today, we're talking about something else, and that's the governor's response to the COVID crisis as it relates to the industry, or the hospitality industry. It was December 23rd, 2 days before Christmas. It seems like a long time ago, that the governor announced a plan to address the crisis within the hospitality industry and a relief package, directing some $145 million to the DCED, the Community and Economic Development, which would then oversee block grants to individual counties. It was barely 6 weeks later, and nothing happens in 6 weeks in Harrisburg, and nothing happens in a bipartisan way in 6 weeks in Harrisburg, but this did. Really, the first week we were back in session on February 5th, the bill, both Democrats and Republicans overwhelmingly supported the bill, passed the bill, and later on that day, the governor signed it into law. And that's why we're here today to oversee the results of the impact of what that bill has had. And finally, before I introduce the governor, I'd like to say this is not the first time the governor's been to Bristol. In fact, this very same spot, the governor's been here 3 times. 3 times in his 6 years. This wharf that you see behind me was a collaboration of federal, state, county, local agencies, personnel, officials, but there's no doubt without Governor Wolf that wharf would not have been built. So early on in his first administration, I remember having a private conversation with the governor where he told me his priorities, and he said, you know, at the top of the list is going to be the small towns across this Commonwealth. And let's face it, Bristol Borough is the best small town in America. So with that, I'd like to introduce my good friend, the governor of the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, Tom Wolf.
That was a nice introduction, but that is true. We did talk about this, and I've only been in politics now for about 7 years, but I've spent the last couple of years trying to figure out how I can take personal credit for Bristol being the best small town in America. I haven't figured out a way to do that because this is what you have all done. You built this, and this is, and I'm proud to help. And I know John has been the biggest champion you have in Harrisburg. But this is a team effort, and you have done such a phenomenal job to build Bristol, and I'm proud to be back for is this the 3rd time?
It is the 3rd time. The same spot, Tom.
Yeah. It seems like it's such a short time that I've been here. I mean, this is a great place, and I'm looking forward to the rest of the day here, but I certainly am happy to be back to talk about this. So thank you, John, for introducing me. And it is an honor to be here. I'm going to be taking a tour of as John said, some of storm damage that happened here. One of the things that we have to be concerned about is that in the last couple of years, Pennsylvania has seen some intense damage from floods, like the floods that damaged areas here. And the problem is that and we need to work on our federal representatives to make sure that the level at which federal help comes begins at a lower level. One of the problems we've had is the storms are more intense, but they're in smaller areas. It used to be that the threshold was somewhere around $18–20 million. Well, you can have a lot of damage in a small area that doesn't rise to that federal level. So we need to see if we can get the federal government to lower the limit so that we can get the federal help folks here really need. In the meantime, I want to talk about what we've done to address another crisis that we're just coming out of, the COVID crisis. Pennsylvania's done a really nice job, but there is absolutely no doubt that this has created so much economic damage, such a crisis that we've gone through. And so, while recognizing that virus has done intense damage to all of us, I think we're here to celebrate some of the things that Pennsylvania has tried to do to address the consequences of that damage. And before I got into politics, I was a business owner. So up till 7 years ago, that's what I did. And I know for a fact that Pennsylvania has some of the hardest workers around, and we are home to some very determined, innovative businesses. We're here in Bristol today in this beautiful business district, and it really is beautiful, to talk about one of the ways that we're trying to help the Commonwealth get back on its feet, workers and businesses. To help us get back on track, I found $145 million. Now you might say, where do you find $145 million? Well, we have the Workers' Compensation Trust Fund, and we take very serious mathematical algorithms to figure out how much we need to make sure that whenever we have to backstop anybody, we have enough money. It's about $500 million we need to have in the Workers' Compensation Trust Fund. Well, it turns out we had more than that. And so we had some excess that I could dip into and say, I want to make sure that we have enough in that Workers' Compensation Trust Fund so that we never have to damage workers or businesses by saying, now we need you to up a little more money here. But there was $145 million over and above that we could take and use. No increase in taxes, no increase in anybody's burden. It was just there. And what better use but to take it to businesses all across the Commonwealth, especially in the hospitality industry, who were hurt by the COVID-19 pandemic. And that's what we did. And as John said, the legislature, in a bipartisan way, reacted really quickly to that. We found the money in late December, and by the first, you guys were back in February, we actually had that done. And within 28 hours of the passage of the bill, all 67 counties had applied for the money. And economic development corporations, community development financial institutions took that money and directed it in anywhere from $5,000 to $50,000 to businesses who had been really, really hurt, especially in the bar and restaurant business all around Pennsylvania. And we're going to hear from Dana, who's going to talk a little bit about what that meant to her business. But this CHIRP program, why do we always have acronyms for things? COVID hospital.
CHIRP was tough.
COVID hospital. Now, bear with me here. It was the COVID Hospitality Industry Recovery Program. Yes, that spells CHIRP. And CHIRP, as I say, went to all 67 counties, but it has made a big difference. And I think, and you're going to hear from Dana as to what it specifically meant for her restaurant, just Eatery Wood-Fired Pizza. The idea was to make sure that they had the money that they couldn't get while the COVID pandemic was ravaging the Commonwealth, the world, and the hope is that it would make a difference, and I think it has made a difference. It's just one way, but it's one more way that all of us are trying to get Pennsylvania back on its economic feet after the pandemic. Now I'm proud to turn this over to Deputy Secretary of the Department of Community and Economic Development, Steve Diatori.
If I can say
John, now another thing I've learned is when a
state
rep wants to say something, you never say no.
Yeah,
so,
right.
Representative Galloway.
If Tommy Tomlinson was here. Tommy Tomlinson is here, you never get it right. First of all, I forgot to mention, we have some people here I really would like to acknowledge. First, my good friend, State Representative Perry Warren's here. And one of the people you're going to be doing the tours with down in Croydon is State Representative Tina Davis. Our Prothonotary, Judy Jackson-Reese. And I know I saw Councilwoman Betty Rodriguez here today. Is she here? I know I saw there. Oh, there she is. She's going to speak today. So with that, I'm done. Steve Dietor from the Deputy Secretary of Technology and Entrepreneurship at the DCED. Thank you.
Good afternoon, and thank you, Governor Wolf. My name is Steve Dietori, and I serve as the Deputy Secretary for Technology and Entrepreneurship at the Pennsylvania Department of Community and Economic Development. On behalf of our Secretary, Dennis Davin, I'm proud to be here today to highlight the assistance being provided through the CHIRP program. These restaurants are our gathering places. They are owned by our family, friends, and neighbors. You know, when you stop and you think about it, restaurants serve as the backdrop of our lives. They are owned by our family, friends, and neighbors. They're where we go when we want to celebrate a special occasion, like an engagement, or just to see a familiar face that we haven't seen in a while, or lastly, just as is the case with me sometimes, just really don't feel like cooking that night. So personally, I know firsthand how important restaurants are to our communities. My dad managed restaurants in Philadelphia, and my uncle had his own place in Conshohocken, not too far from here. I've also worked almost every job a restaurant has to offer, from dishwasher to busser to waitstaff. And the life lessons I took away from those experiences are invaluable. Unfortunately, the past year has not offered that restaurant experience that we are so accustomed to. And while that hurt us as patrons, it hurt our restaurateurs even more. Their businesses aren't just their livelihood, they're the lifeblood of the community and anchors of neighborhoods. When COVID-19 shuttered the world, our restaurant and hospitality industry was devastated. And while we as patrons want to do all we can to provide our support, the hit the industry took continues to require major assistance to aid in getting hospitality back on steady ground. That's why, with the governor's leadership, the development of the CHIRP program was so critical as we began planning for pandemic recovery. This funding, secured by Governor Wolf late last year, as he mentioned, was quickly directed into the hands of those who needed it most, places like Eatery Wood Fired, who has taken the time to be here with us today. And that's why we want to celebrate the work of our boots-on-the-ground partners, like our county commissioners and the Bucks County Economic Development Corporation and all of our great local partners that are here with us today. They knew from the get-go how critically needed this assistance was, and they worked tirelessly to get it to where it needed to be. In fact, none of this would have been possible without our local partners, and they deserve our highest gratitude. So in conclusion, I'd like to thank all of our local partners for the incredible work that they accomplished on behalf of Bucks County and Pennsylvania's hotels, bars, and restaurants. And with that, I'll now turn things over to Commissioner Harvey. Thank you.
Thank you, Secretary Dietori. Before I begin, we're here to talk about the CHIRP program and the efforts of the state and county to help those hospitality businesses that struggled so much last year. Visit Bucks County is one of our economic development agencies here in Bucks that really plays an integral role in all our hospitality industries. And before I started here, on behalf of them, I'd like to present Governor Wolf with a swag bag here of Bucks County.
I accept this very proudly. Now, let me say, I have a gift band, which is a problem. So
I'll take it.
I'll hold it. No, I got it. So I will be sending you a check, a contribution to you, to Bucks County for this. But I am really proud of this, and I'm so proud as a Pennsylvanian to what you've done here. So congratulations. Thank you.
2020 was a year of resilience. Everybody here had to alter something about their lives, or in most cases, everything about their lives, just to get through the year 2020. That was true of governments. It was certainly true of businesses. Bucks County had to adapt and develop new ways to help our business communities. We created a Bucks Back to Work grant program, literally from the ground up, and it included everybody from our COO, who's here today, down through almost every department but especially our community and economic development agencies and department. That grant program, the Bucks Back to Work program, distributed about $27 million to about 1,300 businesses throughout Bucks County. And yet still, as 2020 wore on, we knew that it wasn't enough. And so, I can't say strongly enough how much we really appreciated the governor's efforts to institute the CHIRP program, because that hospitality industry, of all the industries that suffered last year, the hospitality industry really suffered tremendously. And so the CHIRP program coming along when it did was perfect timing. And so I know it's a huge benefit here in Bristol Borough. It's my hometown, where I was born and raised, but throughout Bucks County and throughout the Commonwealth, the CHIRP program was really indispensable for keeping businesses alive and flourishing into 2021. And with that, I'll introduce the Vice President of Bristol Borough Council and the West Ward Councilwoman, who represents the area where E-Tree is, Ms. Betty Rodriguez.
On behalf of Bristol Borough Council, Vice President Ralph DiGiuseppe, who could be here today, the Mayor Joe Saxon, who's under the weather, he had some surgery, Jim Dillon, the Borough Manager, and Raising the Bar, I'd like to welcome everyone here to Bristol Borough. I've been on council for 18 years, and I can't tell you how proud I am to be a Latina and a representative of this town. This shows you how much work they've done for us and we've done with them, and it's so nice to see everyone here enjoying what we enjoy. I'd like to thank the governor for coming here today and the program that they're investing in. And I think it's very useful for our community, because we've been trying really hard to keep Mill Street afloat. And it's hard, especially when COVID hit. A lot of the businesses weren't able to flourish the way they were. They had to do a lot of takeout, and that kind of dampened a lot of things. But with that being said, we're working hard with them, with everyone, to make it what it used to be, if not better. So I'd like to thank you again for coming here. Please enjoy the town, visit the restaurants, come down on the weekends, and if you need a tour, call me. I'll help you. Thank you. Oh, yes, I'm sorry. I'd like to introduce Robert Cormack, Executive Director of Bucks County Economic Development.
Good afternoon, and yes, it's a little warm, and I'll keep this short so we don't have to be under the weather for a while. Bucks County Economic Development Corporation, Bob Cormack. I've been in this county for over 30 years. To see a program like this come to fruition really is a celebration, so we're kind of here for a celebration standpoint. Before we get going, we had 3 agencies, the Bucks County Economic Development Corp., the Tourism Bureau, Visit Bucks County, plus the Bucks County Redevelopment Authority, and the County of Bucks. The 4 of us really worked as a cohesive team in making sure that we disseminated the information on the CHIRP program and actually came through with looking at applications. We have a tendency to be numbers people at the EDC. We had 196 total recipients. 36 municipalities were representative. Full-time employees was 1,391. Part-time employees was over 2,000. So 15% of our recipients were accommodation businesses, and 85% were food and restaurant. So I think we did a phenomenal job in making sure that we represented the county and the county's efforts and the state's efforts to address the need of the industries within certain SIC codes, the food and beverage industry. So it worked out extremely well. Before I leave, I just want to say I want to thank the County of Bucks, Deanna, Sterling. We had a great team, and we worked really well together. And Commissioner, I thank you for the opportunity to let us be involved with that. Thank you. Up next is the reason why we're here. When you look at a business owner, talk to the business owners of their needs. Dana certainly had needs, and she was able to fulfill those needs with the grant. So I'm going to have Dana come up and talk about our lovely program and our business.
Thank you, Mr. Cormack. That's quite an introduction. I would like to thank Representatives John Galloway and Tina Davis Commissioner Harvey, and all who were instrumental in this program for asking me to speak today. It is quite an honor. It's an honor to be here with Governor Wolf and to share my story about being a small business owner during one of the hardest years, I think, of all of our lives, both personally and professionally. Like so many small businesses around the country, I had to make decisions regarding my restaurant, the safety of my employees, the safety of my customers, and also the well-being of my employees. What's going to happen next? So when the country initially shut down, my husband and I immediately knew we had to set new goals for our business, and we knew that this was going to be a storm that we were going to have to weather together that I don't think anyone was really prepared for. First and foremost, we did not want to lay off any of our employees. That was the most important thing to us. Our employees, many of them have been with us for years. Our manager has been with us since day one, and they mean a lot to us. We know them as people, we know their families, we know their children, so they are more to us than just our employees. If we shut our doors, how would that impact them and their own families? Second, we had to be ready to apply for hopefully any grants that may be coming in the near future. My business, along with 13 others in this area, were able to secure the CHIRP grant, and I can say with 100% certainty, if we had not been able to secure such funds as the CHIRP grant, we would have never been able to stay open. We would have never been able to keep our employees working. Not only did we do that, but we were able to retain all of our staff members who were comfortable working during this time. And finally, moving forward, we know the nature of our business. The restaurant industry is changed forever, and these funds have helped us to start making steps to adapt. Living and owning a business in Bristol Borough is an honor, as I'm sure Bristol native Commissioner Bob Harvey can relate to. Our town continues to thrive, and we are blessed to be part of that. I thought it was important to share how the CHIRP grant changed my life personally, and as well as the lives of small business employees across the state. Business leaders and politicians alike have had to make many difficult decisions during this pandemic. So I would certainly like to thank Governor Wolf for his leadership in the realm of public health, while recognizing how much help businesses need to survive and thrive. So I would like to welcome back to the podium Governor Wolf.
So, Bob, just the number, the amount of money that came to Bucks County was just under $7 million. You missed that, really, that important point. So, any questions for any of us? Any questions? That's great. I really love Bristol now. This is really great. Okay, well, thank you very much. I'm going to be touring the flood-damaged areas later this afternoon, and again, deepest sympathy for the losses that everybody here has taken as a result of those weather-induced crises, and I'm glad we were able to do some things to help the pandemic-induced crises that we've all suffered through. So thank you very much for having me. Thanks for being such nice hosts.